My name is Peter Okocha. I was born 5th February 1952 in a sleepy town. Then Jos was the bubbling town in northern Nigeria. I am the 11th child of out of 14. I started from Bisichi Teen Company School in Bisichi, and then entered some Murumbas, Jos, before the war broke out. And we came back to then Midwest Nigeria. From there, of course, I went to St. Paul's Seminary, and after finishing from seminary, because of the protest of my sisters, I left for United States. I arrived in United States in 1972, and I went to Malcolm X College, and then Northeastern Illinois University, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree in economics and a bachelor's degree in political science. I also proceeded for a graduate program where I got a master's degree in economics, and then went to Walter Heller Business School, which is Roosevelt University, where I got my MBA in international business. I came back here in 1978, 79, and did the National Youth Service. And I did it with a shipping company called Panalpina, and that's where I picked up shipping. And it was in the course of that in 1982 that I met Atiku Abubakar, even before he became the Turaki of Adamawa. And ever since then, our relationship metamorphosed from friendship to friendliness, and today I will say that he's actually the only person I'll call my older brother. He's a wonderful person, and I'm praying that Nigeria will get to know him better as president, because he will not only be a good leader, a good economic manager, but he will also be a compassionate political head that has transcended from civil service to politics, from civil service to business, and from business to politics. So if you are talking of business, he was a civil servant. So he understands civil service. He is a businessman. So he understands the language of business. And now he's a politician. But politics and economics go hand in hand. So being a politician and also being a businessman puts him head and shoulder above all politicians, because he knows what it is to do business and he understands politics. Today, and I stand to be corrected, he's probably the most experienced politician alive. Why do you say so? Because I have been with him from our days in Bukuru in 1992, when he ran against MKO Abiola. He left customs, and in fact, before he left customs, he told me and a few of our friends that if at 40 he does not become the controller, or then it was called the director of customs, that he will leave customs. What happened, happened. The rest is history. He was Deputy Controller General, Enforcement and Drug. From there, he became Deputy Controller General, um, um, call it, I've forgotten the department, but it has to do with industries before he left. He's a man who believes in leadership. He obeyed the call of his leader, or our leader then, Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, and stepped down for Abiola. But of course, what also happened. The rest is history, or for historians to tell. Abiola chose Kungibe instead of himself. But you know, like you people who speak English will normally say, "Ke sera sera." The vice president that he was promised came into manifestation in 1999. But one thing I can tell you is that if MKO had chosen Atiku Abubakar would not have betrayed him, would not have joined the military or a military-style administration as a vice president designate, but also that is left to historians. And I wasn't surprised in 1999 that Obasanjo chose him as vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And of course, he superintended or supervised the economic program that led to the development that we saw or we are seeing today, from MTN to the downstream industry and so on and so forth. Today, he's running for president. And of course, you know, I'm rooting for him. And I'm hoping and praying that he becomes the next president so that Nigerians can truly understand the man, Atiku Abubakar, the Jada-born politician, businessman, and by God's grace, May 29th this year, God will crown our collective efforts by making him the next president after Muhammad Buhari. Atiku is a man who believes he follows the leader. We were, myself, Okadibo, Yaya Kwande, the late Chike Chibwe, were angry. When he told us that Shehu Yar'Adua had spoken that he should step down, we refused. We said, let's go and meet Shehu. Let's go for the runoff, because there were only 3 of them. And we were already negotiating, trying to make alliances, build bridges, so that he will win. But all of a sudden, Shehu told him to step down for MKO for one simple reason. He said, Turaki, if you win and the military annul the election, the northern elites will tell you, just don't worry, it is the Lord who gives power and the Lord who takes, and the military will continue. He said, but if Abiola wins and the military annul, he said the Southwest will rise and that will be the end of the military. And that's exactly what happened. So to that extent, Yar'Adua was a prophetic politician. With the benefit of hindsight now, I now see why Atiku stepped down and supported MKO to become the president. MKO failed in his promise because we were also clamoring that, okay, we didn't get the number one man, we'll get the number two man. But he wasn't worried. He said everything is in God's hands. That if he is destined to be president of Nigeria, one day God will make him president. And I think that day has come. And I think that all Nigerians, young and old, Catholics and Protestants, Jews and Gentiles, should go to their altar and pray that Atiku becomes the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And now let me tell you, when Obasanjo came out from prison, a few of us, myself, Ibeto, Chika Okafo, Sunday Afolabi, and Atiku Abubakar contributed money and donated to his account, because at that time he had no money. And part of the discussion was that, yeah, well, one thing you must give Obasanjo, he has brilliant ideas. The only thing is that he's a leader with a small mind. He can chase you for the sin of your grandfather. And he told us his dream about Nigeria, making it a Singapore of West Africa. Asked us if we have read the book, From Third World to First World, by Lee Kuan Yew. I happen to have read that book, and it's a wonderful book. It's a wonderful read. And he said that is his ambition. And part of his ambition is to make sure that every Nigerian will be able to run as governor or run for public office from any part of Nigeria, irrespective of tribe. And he says by the time he does it in 20 years or 25 years, or Nigeria does that in 20 or 30 years, this issue of tribalism, sectionalism, state of origin would have evaporated. And I think it was a wonderful idea. So we all bought into it, which was why a few of us contributed initially for his empowerment. Of course, in 2003, it became another story. And that is when I know that power corrupts. And absolute power, if unchecked, corrupts absolutely. Because then he didn't want to leave. Some young governors, led by James Ibori, nudged Atiku to run. And also, again, Atiku being a very patient and loyal political servant, cajoled the governors to down their troops, let them support Obasanjo to finish his tenure, since it was zoned to the southwest, and since constitutionally he's entitled to 8 years. He supported Obasanjo. Obasanjo won. And of course, from that day, it was like hell on earth. Both Atiku and those who know Atiku and those associates of Atiku saw hell. The president became an undertaker and started cutting everybody below our size. In the process, I lost African Petroleum, I lost IIMB, lost global insurance, but I wasn't deterred. It is the price sometimes we have to pay for democracy. But it was absolutely unnecessary. In 2003, the presidency was Atiku's for asking. The governors had already mobilized, and they were waiting for him to say, go ahead. Some I had even bought forms for him. He was actually the person telling them, no, let us support this guy for his second tenure. Of course, after second tenure, everybody knew what happened. He was begging the governors to please allow, because the governors were too powerful. They were holding all the delegates. They were there like, even till now.
How did he beg the governors?
They were like Alpha and Omega. I remember when we were going to Congress, the governors will lock you up in a room once you're a delegate. And at the stand, they will say, we will tell you who to vote for. And they will march you to the polling booth. Of course, what you do between the time you get the polling card, the ballot paper, and drop it in the polling booth is between you and God. But then there came what do they call him? Tommy Kimi, who then was the returning officer, who at every stage was saying Obasanjo, and nobody actually cared to verify whether it was all Obasanjo or there is an Ekweme in between. But when Obasanjo came, everybody, including myself, was full of hope. A retired general. The Southwest has just lost a business Mongol, and one of those that I admired. And it is time to pacify them. But you have a retired general whom everybody knew could be a man of action. And some of the things that have eluded us, like power and telephone, I was hoping that will be solved, or I believed will be solved in 2 or 3 years. But here we are. I'm as Igbo as they come. Yes, I am from Delta, now Midwest. I paid the price of being an Igbo man. My father was killed in the north. 2 years later, my mother died when they ran into the bush. I was 14 years old when my mother died, when I went into the seminary. I was one of those who supported Obi as vice president. But I can tell you the truth. Nigeria is at a cliff, and we require a skillful, economic, and thoughtful manager that has satisfied all his strata of needs. The only person that fits that box with utmost modesty, forget even about my friendship. I don't depend on Atiku for anything in life. But I can tell you one thing. The only person that checks all the box for leadership today is Atiku Abubakar. And if Igbos are looking for presidency, the only person that can make sure that an Igbo man becomes president is Atiku Abubakar. Because you see, I asked Atiku one day and I said, with all these your numerous marriages, did you know you were going into politics? Atiku has an Igbo son. He has Igbo children. He has Yoruba children. He has Hausa children. These are the Nigerian tripoid. Is he going to discriminate against Igbos? He has children by an Igbo woman. Is he going to discriminate against Yorubas? His first wife. And if there is anything like heir to the throne, is from a Yoruba woman. And of course, he has a Hausa woman and a Fulani woman. He's also Fulani. And when people start saying Atiku is Fulani, Atiku is not. There are two kinds of Fulanis. One is the educated Fulani, and one is Bororo. Bororos are the ones that move cows from one area to the other. Okay, he has transcended from Bororo to educated Fulani. But Atiku is a cosmopolitan Fulani. Atiku will leave Lagos and go to Ibuzo, my hometown, and stay in my house without my being there. My oldest sister that died last year was 96. From the time Atiku was in custom till my sister passed, she was on Atiku's salary. And I can afford it. So what kind of man is that person? When he didn't make it as president, my sister was crying. And one of the things my sister's cry, my sister's wishes in her dying bed was, she said to me, so I will not see Atiku, Turaki. He calls him as president. I said, don't worry, put it in prayer. She was 96, she died last year. And when Atiku became Waziri, I told my sister, I said, your son is now Waziri. He said, what is wrong with Fulani people? So when you become big, you change name. Because she thought that Atiku's name, that Turaki is his name, not knowing that Turaki is title. But even being born in Jos, I am second generation. My father was born in Jos. I was born in Jos. So we are the Igbos of northern origin.
The real Ndibo.
If Nigeria is to be what it's supposed to be, I have no place in Delta. My political base would have been in Jos. Because that's where I have my friends. That's where I went to school. That's where I grew up. The friends that I have made are those that I saw when I came back in 1966. Of course, my father had died at that time. And the reason why I named one of my sons Emeka Ojukwu was that Emeka was because Ojukwu met us at the train station, saw us orphans, and then said to us, don't worry, I will retaliate the injustice. So Ojukwu came to the train station then in Enugu. And we were crying, and he said, where are you guys going? We said Ibuzo. He said, oh, okay, I have a friend called Okwechime from Ibuzo. And he said to us, don't worry. I will fight for you. I will retaliate. So he gave us one pound. We left. I never saw Ojukwu again until I became chairman of African Petroleum. He had forgotten. I was flying to Enugu with my private jet. And he was there at the VIP lounge. And I went to him and I said, he came back, where are you going to? He said, Enugu. I said, okay. I was actually flying to Benin. I had to fly to Enugu and dropped him. And of course, you know, Ojukwu has this, he thinks he's an Englishman. And he says, Biko Wannam, to what do I owe this benevolence? So I told him, I said, sir, there was one little boy that was 12 years old. His parents was killed. In 1966, you gave him £1 and gave him hope. That little boy is Peter Okocha. And in fact, I named one of my sons after you, Emeka. You see, people think Ojukwu is hard. That was when I saw the softness of Ojukwu. Ojukwu started shedding tears. He said, you mean you made this detour for me? I told him that he is worth it. That without him, if he had not given me hope, I would not have lived. And if I have not lived, I wouldn't have gone to school, not to talk of being able to acquire African Petroleum as chairman. He hugged me, left. The aircraft left back to Benin, dropped me off, because then there was no Asaba airport, and I taxied from Benin airport to Ibuzo. In 1999, Atiku Abubakar believed that Okwome would have just succeeded Shagari if the military had not interrupted our polity. So he was supporting Okwome. Of course, Okwome was vice president, and they were in their second tenure when the military took over. But then some generals felt that, one, Abiola, the Southwest was aggrieved because of the death of Abiola, and secondly, that they would rather deal with somebody that they know Obasanjo, and they don't know Okwome. So they can, to some extent, predict how Obasanjo will behave vis-a-vis how Okwome will behave. And he was persuaded to support Obasanjo instead of Okwome. He was an ardent Okwome supporter. That is actually what happened. And of course, you know, there is what they call, I don't know if you read this book by Kenneth Gilbert, it's called The Military Industrial Complex. A military man was in charge. The retired generals preferred a retired general. And it's like, if you want democracy, this is the man we want. If you don't want him, okay, no problem. But the rest is for you to fill the line. And he's one person. Don't forget, in all this military interruption into our politics, he never accepted any ministerial position. He declined. He doesn't believe, he believes in democracy. In fact, if we are four in a room and he takes a decision and we go the other way, he will 90% of the time toe our line, because he believes that, you know, it's the majority carries the rule. When Obi was nominated vice president, I remember he told me that he will allow that maybe after some few months, Obi will run the economy and he will prepare him for presidency.
He said that?
Yeah. He said that he wants to prepare Obi as Igbo president. But first and foremost, since he's a businessman, which he thinks is good for him, he will run the economy and he will take him around the world and introduce him to any person or every person that he has met that could be useful in his political future. I was happy. Unfortunately, we didn't make it in 2019, or what happened. Last year, Obi came to me and said he wants to run for president. Not really run for president. He said he wants to pick the form, and so that they will not say that there is no Igbo, because he was also aiming at becoming vice president. That since the governors are always agitating that the vice president will be a former governor, will be a governor, and he was a former governor, that he is popular enough to pick up the form, but he knows that he is nowhere close. He will nowhere be close to Atiku. And then at the campaign ground or at the stadium, he will step down and endorse Atiku, which now will make him available for nomination as vice president or otherwise.
That was the plan.
That was the plan. That was what Obi and I discussed. Because I was coming from Yola, and a letter was forwarded to me that Obi had resigned from PDP. Until today, we have not spoken about it. Because that was not the plan. We attend the same church of Assumption, and usually after church we go to my house because he likes espresso. So we'll drink espresso. He sat with me. In one occasion, he came with Ohuabonwa. And that was the plan. But I guess he probably had other plans, which it seems, and you young men tweeted his head. But I can tell you one thing. Our surest bet to presidency is making Atiku president and then extract a promise from him that he will assist us to make our dream of an Igbo presidency come through. Because I believe that these agitations or clamor for inclusiveness will not be concluded until an Igbo man becomes president. We missed it in Ekweme. He tried his best, spent his money. I remember that because I've always been interested in politics, I got the Delta State chapter chairman of PDP to sign Ekweme's form, Senator Peter Nwabosh. And it was based on Atiku's directive. But only an Atiku cannot make Ekweme president. And I believe probably it wasn't his time. But my belief is that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And our straight line to the presidency is Atiku Abubakar.
Thanks for checking out SYMFONI on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.